Hello, and welcome back to the space between. Hello, and welcome back to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. If you're new to my channel, I'll just give you a 2 minute rehearsal. What's going on? What's going on? All right. Oh, there we go. If you look at this Notion page, you'll see that I'm trying to build an application. It's called Arrowhead, and the problem is that when we use AI to help us, for example, when we use AI to use like coding tools, like say you want to design some kind of website and you're using Windsurf or Replit or Cursor, and the issue is that sometimes like it doesn't really do it right. It has problems, and so um, I was watching this Y Combinator video, and they're like, you should really focus on documentation. And so I started using Google Gemini in order to start to create documentation. What I quickly realized is that what happens with AI tools like Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude is that over time it can either lose the context, or if it just you have to have some way to remind it about the context. I had this problem earlier where I was talking to ChatGPT for like a couple of days in a row, and at some point it starts to forget the stuff that we talked about at the beginning. So what do you have to do? So you have to understand that, like for example in this case, so I have these 6 documents which calibrate the AI coding tool for that project. So in these coding tools, what you're going to see is, like for example, if I open up this images file, you're going to see the actual image that I used in order to design my application. My application is a project management app. I believe that all project managers should have um, the ability to clearly describe the vision of their project. They need to be able to express the objectives and then have a little scoreboard with tasks written on it. And then they should be able to have these little touch base experiences each day with their team so that they're able to complete the tasks in the scoreboard and therefore achieve the objective, eventually accomplishing the vision of the project and then completing the project. In some cases, people have a hard time understanding the objectives they need to pursue. So then we can just go through the brainstorm exercise and then choose the objective. Once we have an objective to work on, we plug it back into our objective module. That's going to create the scoreboard. And then we do those touch bases until the objectives are completed. So this is a tool that helps project managers to focus on what matters most to complete their projects. And each project is a brainstorming tool. It gives people an opportunity to talk about each little element of their project. And here's that workflow I was just explaining. So the first 5 documents calibrate your AI tool to understand what the project is that we're building. And then you plug in those images, and it has a very clear understanding of what this project is about. Now, after you finish explaining the project, then the next thing is that we have, okay, so one is only when asking the AI coding tool like Cursor what they like to do for a tech stack for this specific project. Okay, so what happened was after I calibrated the AI tool for this project, then I asked Gemini to create a prompt I could plug into Cursor to ask it what is the best tech stack. And this is the result that I got. So I plugged that tech stack back into Gemini, and then I said, all right, so Gemini, now create a calibration, another markdown file so that I can feed it back into you in case I lose this window and I have to start from scratch. Right. So I go step. So you can see here's the first document, document number 1, all the way to document number 6. Now, after we calibrate for the tech stack, then next we have to calibrate for the sprint. So we have a markdown file for the sprint. It's going to explain what are the sprints in this project. In our case, we have an 8-step sprint process, and it also talks about the steps within the sprint, and then as a general outline. Once that's all complete, now we're into sprint 1. And that's really where we are. We're in sprint 1 and we're ready to go. So we have prompts that we're going to plug into. We're going to plug in the same prompt to initialize each of the projects in our tools, Cursor, Windsurf, and Replete. But before we do that, of course, I always have something that I want to do with that. So here we are. Now, what's this? Inside Marketing Design. Inside Marketing Design, it's a very interesting little YouTube channel where this lady, she interviews a bunch of different companies. Let's jump into the videos. All right, so we got Linear, we got Superside, we got Scale, we got Sync, we got Webflow, ConvertKit, the Wrap Up, Zendesk, RightMessage, ChangeBee, Plan No Lily, Funding Circle, Oyster, Paystack, Edge, Zapier, Authent, Monday.com, Pitch, whatever that is, Figma, Shopify, HelloSign, Dropbox, Loom, Instacart, Buffer, Notion, Stripe, Help Scout. You see, so she's talking to like a bunch of huge companies, companies that are extremely famous. Everybody knows who they are, and she's talking to their design people. She's talking to their design heads. She's asking, how is your design team organized? How is your marketing team organized? How do you design things inside of your company? How does that all work? Now, the problem is there's like 40 videos, right? Well, actually, there's 67 videos. And how do you use this information? Because I need to understand this information with my design process. Yeah, sure. I have the prompts to get the projects started off, like, and to get the tools to get my AI, the IDEs, to get them ready to go, to create the project and get everything ready. And then what are they going to ask? They're going to ask, okay, so what do you want to create? What are we doing here? Well, if we jump into Sprint 1 and then we open our Sprint 1 document, we find out infrastructure and authentication. What does that mean? Foundational infrastructure and authentication. Well, that means the start page, the page for signing up. My experience with Windsurf was really bad. I really didn't like that. I tried to ask it to make some changes with the user interface and it couldn't do it, or it just wouldn't do it. And what I started to realize is maybe these IDEs are not the best for creating a user interface. And the question is, how am I going to create the user interface? So what I did was I just decided maybe the best thing to do is to, well, this has got to say.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a really close look inside marketing design teams, specifically at tech companies.
Yeah, we've been digging into that Inside Marketing Design YouTube series. It's got tons of real world stuff from places like Monday.com, Webflow, Doist, Loom, a whole bunch.
Exactly. And the goal here is, well, to figure out how these teams are actually put together, how they work, how they collaborate.
And importantly, how their design work actually helps the business, right? What's the impact?
Right. And we know you, our listener, come from all sorts of backgrounds. So we're going to try and unpack some maybe complex ideas.
Yeah, make it clear, hopefully engaging.
Yeah.
We want you to get those aha moments without feeling like you're drowning in jargon. Just the useful takeaways.
Absolutely. And honestly, the first thing that jumps out is just how different they all are.
Oh, totally. No one size fits all approach here.
Not at all. Different structures, team sizes, challenges, but all trying to make a real mark. So yeah, should be informative, lots of practical bits, maybe some surprises.
Okay, let's dive in. Maybe start with how these teams are structured organizationally.
Good place to start, because wow, the variety there is pretty striking.
It really is. You see marketing design sitting squarely within the main marketing team. That's how HelpScout and ConvertKit started out, and Sendable still does it that way.
Okay, sort of the classic model, maybe.
You could say that, but then you also see it under growth. ConvertKit actually made that shift, and Notion, Oyster, they have it there too.
And placing it in growth, that probably signals something, right? Like a very direct link to user numbers activation.
Exactly. It often means a tighter focus on those kinds of metrics.
Yeah.
That's not the only way, of course.
No, definitely not. What else did we see? Zendesk, they have it as part of a bigger creative department.
Right. Which probably also with overall brand consistency across everything creative.
Yeah, though maybe you need to make sure the specific marketing goals don't get lost in that wider setup.
That could be a consideration.
Yeah.
Then there's the whole brand studio idea. Webflow and Zapier do this.
That sounds almost like an internal agency, doesn't it?
Kind of, yeah. It suggests a really strong focus on building the brand itself, maybe more project driven.
Interesting. And there were some blended roles too, bridging different areas.
For sure. Like at Funding Circle and Proof, marketing design acts as a kind of bridge to product design. Sometimes designers even split their time.
And then the really unusual one, Paystack, where marketing design is in engineering.
Yeah, which really highlights technical stuff. Like for them, designing for slower internet speeds is a big deal, so performance becomes a core design task.
Makes sense. So structure reflects priorities. And what about team size? Was that all over the place too?
Completely. From solo designers doing basically everything. Basecamp early on was like that, right up to these big teams.
Like Auth, Instacart, Zapier's growth team.
Right, with really specialized roles. Brand designers, digital, web, production designers, even brand producers, animators.
Wow. So the scale of the company and its needs really dictates that structure and size.
Absolutely. And naturally, with all these different structures and sizes, the way they collaborate varies a lot too.
Okay, so how does that work in practice? What kind of strategies did we see?
Well, Monday.com mentioned formal brainstorms, but also these monthly design guild meetings.
Design guilds.
Yeah.
Like a way to share knowledge across different design groups.
Seems like it, yeah. High-level updates, keeping everyone connected.
And Webflow with their brand studio, they seem pretty integrated. Didn't they mention copywriters?
They did. They bring brand copywriters into the studio team.
Yeah.
That ensures really tight alignment between words and visuals from the start.
That makes so much sense. And they have design show and tells too.
Yeah, quarterly ones. Great for visibility and feedback, I imagine. They also use pods for specific projects.
Pods.
Like small focused teams. They work on something and then pitch their ideas up the chain, sometimes even to the CMO.
Yeah.
helps drive focus and get buy-in.
Smart. And it shows how important it is for marketing design to connect outwards too, not just internally.
Definitely. Webflow talked about collaborating on product-related brand stuff. That's key for consistent experience.
And Funding Circle had that digital designer embedded in the main design team, acting as a bridge.
Right. And thinking about remote work, which is so common now, the tools are vital.
Yeah, DOS came up there, right? Being remote first.
They rely heavily on Figma's collaboration features, things like pair design, working together in the file.
And their squad model sounds interesting too. Self-reliant teams.
Yeah, individuals within focus squads, good for distributed work. Loom, mentioned open Slack channels and regular critiques. Transparency is big for them.
Okay, keeping things visible. And ConvertKit, how do they manage collaboration with their squads?
They have weekly brand team meetings. It's like a central hub to bring together all the insights from the different cross-functional squads.
Got it. And for bigger places like Superside,
They use brand collab channels for anyone in the company to ask brand questions. And for specific projects, they spin up temporary astropods.
Astropods, right? Dedicated teams for a set time. It also seemed like many teams use external help too. Agencies, freelancers.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. It's usually situational for extra capacity during busy times, or if they need really specific skills. Webflow, Loom, Sendable, also mentioned it. Oyster uses Superside quite heavily.
So it's often a mix, in-house plus external talent.
Exactly. Which brings us nicely to, well, the actual processes. How does the work get done day to day?
Right, the workflows. Where does a project even start?
Often it seems with the words, Basecamp mentioned projects kicking off with copy and messaging first.
Interesting. Content leads the way. And clear briefs seem pretty standard.
Yeah, Proof and Superside both highlighted the need for really good, clear briefs to start things off right.
Makes sense. And the tools they're using. Any surprises there?
Not huge surprises, honestly. Figma seems dominant for design work itself.
Yeah, that came up a lot.
But Adobe Creative Cloud is definitely still in the mix for many. And Notion for documentation, that seems pretty common.
And Slack for communication, obviously. Lynn pointed that out.
Of course. Then there's feedback and iteration, super critical. How does that happen?
Seems like a mix. Feedback right in Figma files, discussions in Slack.
And also more formal critique sessions. Loom and Author do those regularly.
And that iterative approach, like Nick mentioned, just constantly refining based on feedback or data.
Absolutely. And speaking of refining and consistency, design systems are a really big theme.
Oh yeah, definitely. Seems like everyone's either got one or is building one. Zendesk's Greenhouse sounded quite mature.
Yeah, powering their website, influencing product. ConvertKit is actively building theirs out now. Snick has component libraries.
It makes sense for efficiency and consistency. What was interesting was Zendesk involving writers in component design.
Right, recognizing that the words and the visuals are totally intertwined in a component.
Exactly. But okay, big question. How do they know if any of this is actually working? How do they measure success?
That's a huge focus area, and again, lots of different approaches. Monday.com really pushes connecting design work directly to data and KPIs.
Okay, so hard numbers, but not always, right? Funding Circle mentioned tracking print campaign impact just by volume.
Yeah, which is different. And Help Scout focuses more on things like brand affinity, awareness, viewership, subscriptions for their content stuff, less direct sales figures.
Softer metrics, but still important. What else?
Surrey Satellite Technology uses broader goals and performance reviews. Testing is big to iterating in Figma, before and after comparisons.
And proper A/B testing, especially on high traffic pages. Paystack and Sketch do that.
Right, Linear looks at sign-up spikes after launches. Contentful tracks, qualified leads.
Proof bases reviews on project status, which is quite direct.
Yeah, and ConvertKit really emphasized trying to show the business impact of brand and design work. Shopify tracks metrics tied to product launches.
Snick even analyzes how individual components perform in their system.
And of course, conversion rates are still key for many, like Sendable and Basecamp.
So a real blend of quantitative and qualitative measures, depending on the goal. Another key thing seemed to be balancing brand and product, keeping them aligned.
Definitely. Zapier does that by bringing product folks into brand projects. Shopify has a dedicated product marketing team as that bridge.
And Loom had that nice phrase, the million little things, just organically weaving the brand into the product feel.
Yeah, more subtle integration. We also heard about designing within constraints. That Paystack example against slow internet speeds, forcing code optimization.
Right. And Dois even said constraints breed creativity.
Which is a great perspective. And website updates, particularly the homepage, seem common.
Because it gets high traffic, right? So you can test and learn quickly.
Exactly. Get fast results, then apply those learnings elsewhere. Monday.com, Sendable, ConvertKit, RightMessage, all mentioned doing homepage revamps.
And just managing the sheer volume of requests, that's a practical challenge.
Totally. Notion and Snick have built self-serve landing page systems to help with that. Empowers other teams, frees up designers.
And prioritization is key, as Notion pointed out. You can't do everything at once.
No way. Okay, so shifting slightly, let's talk about actually building the brand identity and keeping it consistent.
Yeah, the fundamentals, defining that identity first. Stripe using bright colors for optimism stood out.
Yeah, very intentional. And Zapier and Snick developing actual brand stories, narratives.
Mhm.
Snick's patch character is pretty memorable.
It is. And finding that personality balance pitch. Wanting to be professional, but also playful. Sendable aiming for relaxed and playful.
Right, getting that tone right. And then consistency. How do they maintain it?
Style guides are crucial, like the one for Webflow, and design systems, as we talked about.
Templates help too, like Planel uses. And Help Scout stressed empowering the whole team with the right tools and processes. It's not just on the designers.
Good point. Brands aren't static either, are they? They evolve.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Planely did a brand refresh. Loom, Zapier, Sendable went through bigger rebrands.
Zapier even had a rebrand, right?
Yeah. And Help Scout designed a whole sub-brand for In the Works. Plus, communicating core values like Loom's transparency.
And that personalization angle from RightMessage, tailoring the website based on user behavior, that's pretty advanced stuff.
Very. Delivers a much more relevant experience. But it's not all smooth sailing, obviously. There are always challenges.
Oh, for sure. What were some of the common ones that came up?
That tension funding circle mentioned balancing the urgent short-term marketing needs with longer-term creative freedom. That's a classic one.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for remote teams like Dois, just optimizing workflows is an ongoing thing.
Right. Integrating brand properly into the product that came up repeatedly.
And measuring design impact effectively.
Mhm.
Still a tough nut to crack for ConvertKit.
Hello. Hello. Play audio. Join.
Oh, hey there. How can we help?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, based on your research, what are the first steps that I need to consider?
That's a great question to jump in with.
Yeah, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it?
Based on what we've seen, a key first step seems to be understanding the current landscape.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does that look like?
Well, a lot of the teams we looked at started with research, talking to customers, like Proof mentioned doing.
Right, getting a sense of the existing experience and any pain points.
Exactly. And several highlighted the importance of understanding the problem you're trying to solve before jumping to solutions.
Like Dropbox said, if you can't tell me what the problem is, I don't want to see designs.
That's right. So first steps might involve gathering data, talking to people within your organization, and really defining the core challenge.
That makes sense. Laying the groundwork. Yep, go on.
Yeah, so I'm using AI coding tools, and I haven't even started to create the product yet. I'm on the very first steps of creating the product. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to design the product
Oh, that's fascinating that you're using AI tools right from the get-go.
Yeah, that's a very forward-thinking approach. So you're at the absolute beginning.
In that case, what we've seen about understanding the landscape still applies, but maybe your landscape is the potential of AI in your product area.
Right. What problems could you solve with this technology? That's a cool angle.
And
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, what I mean is that as I start to build the user interface, I need to start to use design principles.
Ah, so you're thinking about the look and feel right from the outset.
that's a really important consideration, even in these early stages.
Thinking about that visual language, Sketch talked about needing to tell a story with the visual design.
Exactly. What kind of feeling do you want your user interface to evoke?
Stripe, for example, uses bright colors for optimism. What's the feeling for your AI?
This connects with brand personality too. Pitch wants to be professional, but also playful.
So even as you're building,
Oh, yeah. Go on.
So, what are the AI tools and what are the design tools that I can integrate with each other in the process of creating a brand book and a product?
that's a fantastic question and so relevant to where you are in the process.
It really highlights the exciting intersection of AI and design right now.
Well, based on what we've seen, the Inside Marketing Design guests haven't specifically talked about AI design tools integrating with other platforms.
However, they did mention a lot of the design tools they use and how those integrate.
Figma, for example, came up again and again as a central hub.
And Loom even built a plugin to embed their videos right into Figma and FigJam,
So you can imagine using an AI tool to generate some initial design concepts.
and then bringing those into Figma to refine them, collaborate, and build out your user interface.
For creating a brand book, tools like Notion were popular for documentation.
You could potentially use AI writing assistants to help draft sections of your brand guidelines.
And then organize everything neatly within Notion, linking to your design assets in Figma.
When it comes to the actual product build, that's where your AI coding tools come in.
While direct integration between AI coding and visual design tools might be newer.
The key seems to be a smooth workflow between the different stages.
All right, so that's good. I'm happy with what we got so far. And so you can see is what I did was I popped in all of the videos from Inside Marketing Design, and now I can chat with that. So it's like um, I don't know. I had a pretty good idea of what I was thinking, anyways. So what I'm thinking of is everyone talks about Figma, and the question I have with Figma is so how do we talk about this? Let's jump back into here. I'm thinking about creating some initial user interface concepts before we start working with the AI coding AID, IDEs. Sorry, I mean AI coding IED development environments. And I've noticed that there are certain companies that are helping us to create some initial design ideas. For example, there's Lovable, there is Bolt, there's Figma, and I'm just wondering what are the easiest tools that I can use to create some design ideas, and then which one of those tools are connected with Figma? So I don't know. Mostly, I'm thinking about Bolt and Lovable. Those are the two. And then there's this other one. What's it called? I thought it was called Vercel. It's like or Zero or something like this. Yeah, we're looking for tools that have some. It's going to be working on that for a second or two. So everyone's talking about Figma. Lovable. Figma. Get started for free. And then we got this one. What was it called? Zero or something like. Bold. There was one other one. I can't really. There was like a zero. I can't remember what it was called though. Well, let's just do a bold, lovable comparison. All right. So the idea is that I'm going to use Bolt and Lovable. They are both AI coding tools, and I can just design, or I can tell them about the design, and then from that description, they can create some mock-up. So I'd like you to create a prompt for me based on your understanding of this project and the purpose of this project. I'd like you to create a prompt which describes what a sign-up page should look like. Now I'm starting to get this idea in my mind. You see, in business, usually people are going to be using WhatsApp, Telegram, WhatsApp. I said that. What's the Chinese one? WeChat or Slack. And yeah, so I am creating a website. That's true. Should I create it from an integration first perspective? Oof. All right. Let's see what happens with this. All right. So let's jump into. All right. I'm just signing up with each of these different platforms. Give me 2 minutes. All right. So I'm signed up. What is this? It's Figma. This is Figma. I don't know what to do in Figma actually. Let's see. I don't know what's going on with Figma. Here's Lovable. Okay, so I'm just going to plug in the prompt that I got from Gemini. Generate a UI mockup or component code for the sign up page for the management guide and application. All right, let's just plug that in. It's going to get started on that. And then Bolt, same thing. I'm going to give it the same prompt. I'm going to just widen this window a little. I'm not using the full window. I think you can make it a little bit wider. Okay, it's good enough. All right, so what do we got? Preview. We got no preview available. All right, still working on it. All right, management guidance app. Super base. Okay, so what's happening here is that I can see that there is a need to maintain the design of the product. And so I need some tools that can help me with that design. Retry. Bolt didn't seem to be able to do it on the first try. Lovables created a basic sign-up page. Let's jump back into Gemini. Let's see what Bolt is doing. See, the problem I'm having right now is that before I was completely relying on Cursor and Windsurf to create the user interface, but I wasn't really happy with the experience that I had, which means that those tools, they might not be the best tools in order for creating the user interface. And also, I think that maybe it's better to use other tools which are more specialized for that kind of experience. Yeah, Bolt is not doing so. There we go. All right, here's Bolt. So Bolt did a little project management startup page. Good. Sign up page, then you need the sign in page. So let's create the sign in page. We're going to copy that. We're going to jump over here to Lovable. I'm going to put that in there. It's going to start working on that page. Jump into Bolt and let it start working on that. All right, so now my question is, are these two tools able to actually do this? Am I going to be able to, well, let's see. So if I click sign in, this is a placeholder for the sign in page. Exactly. So it doesn't have the sign in page yet. Now we have the sign in page. We got the sign up page. We got the sign in page. Sorry, I wasn't showing the right screen. All right, so on Lovable, we have the sign up page and we have the sign in page. How about Bolt? Bolt, we got the sign up page and we got the sign up page and we got the sign up page. What's going on? Sign in. Sign in. They're the same. Uh-oh. Okay, so we had two problems with Bolt already. I don't know. If you can't get, I don't know. I think we're done. I think I'm done with Bolt. All right, now can I copy this? Copy the message link. What do you mean the message link? Yeah, all right. So Lovable, it doesn't exactly allow you. I just asked it the same question. I asked it if it could describe the differences. Both pages. Okay, so let's jump back into Bolt. Can you make changes based on the following? All right, so I just took I asked Lovable to explain the difference between the sign-in page and the sign-up page, and then now it gave me that description. I'm pasting in this description into Bolt, which my expectation is that now Bolt is going to understand that there is a difference between a sign-in page and a sign-up page, and then it will make the changes. And this is concerning because, like, I don't want to deal with a tool that can't even get the first rate. Like, if it messes up on the very first step, it's like, I'll give you one more chance. 26,000 daily tokens remaining. Subscribe for more for 66 times more usage. Okay, so now we got the welcome back sign in. We got the sign up. There we go. It says join the management guidance community. Or if you already have, then you can go back to the welcome back. There we go. And Lovable is same thing. All right, good. Now let's jump back. Great. What's the next page? And provide a prompt. Okay, after the sign up, sign in the projects page. All right, so we copy that. We go into Lovable. We're going to paste in our projects page. We're going to click go. Go into our Bolt. Same prompt. Go. All right, so we're getting closer and closer to some type of user interface. Of course, we haven't really started talking about brand colors and product experience. I've already designed the product experience. At least I have a basic concept of the product experience. Let's jump into Lovable, see if it's done. Now I have two kind of competing thoughts here. And one thought is that I want the website to, let's jump into Mira so I can explain it while I'm looking at the project. Okay, here. Now the idea behind this application is quite simple. Here, there's going to be a projects page, and there's going to be the modules page, and then the modules, you're going to navigate to a page, and you're going to fill out information. And the thing is that the question is, okay, yeah, so the manager is going to have, this is the manager. The manager has a series of projects that they're managing. And then within each of their projects, they're going to have a history, which means what are the different modules that I'm using in order to manage the project. So that the manager needs to have this information. But when it comes to actually populating those boxes with information, it would be nice to have a faster and easier approach. For example, let's say that if I'm doing like a touch base with one of my people and we're actually having a meeting, then let's say I'm doing like a video conference, I could click our touch base module, and then I can talk to my staff member. I can say, okay, so what are you working on? And then they tell me what they're working on. Okay, so how's it going? What are you doing? What are you working on today? And then, okay, so what do you need help with? Then they talk about what they need help with and what are some potential sources of assistance. And then they tell you that. And can we update a status? Do we need to add or delete a task? Is there a change to the timeline? That brings us to uh, the scoreboard. And then, so we're finding out what's going on with their tasks. Can we make any changes? Now, what happens if it's not an actual meeting? So what if I'm just like, I don't really want to talk to that person. I just want an update. So I want to send them this message. So am I going to be able to do that within the Slack environment, or am I just going to be able, or should I do it inside of my website? So maybe there's a button I can push, and then I can send them these questions, and then they will send me the responses. All right, let's take a look at Lovable. Now, how do I actually get to the projects page? Okay, we got the profile, my account, settings. Do I have my account page? No. Settings account? No. Sign out? No. Project created. Navigate to opening project 1. Rename project. What's this? Can I move them up and down? Also, okay, good. That one actually works. And that one doesn't work. New project. The new project button doesn't work. Rename the project button doesn't work. Interesting. So it's interesting how like this one you can like move them up and down, but you can't. Some of the other features don't work. Okay, now the question is like, how do we change the style? And the other thing is, what does this have to do with design? Annotate and measure as you go. Make specs for developers from anywhere. What's this? Switch to dev mode. Back to design mode. Show Figma updates. Okay, I'm done with that. All right, so the first problem I have in Figma is, where is the AI thing? I don't see the AI thing anywhere, which means I have to know how to design using Figma in order to use Figma. And if I don't know how to use Figma, then it's game over. All right, so it's game over. There's no AI tool. And I'm an AI first company, so I can't use Figma. Like, what are some ideas for improving the user interface to be more modern and have a 3D feel? You've used all of your tokens. Uh-oh. Now, what does it mean by you've used all of your tokens? Is that per day? What happened to my preview? All right, let's get back to Lovable. And there's no audio to read the message. Glass morphium effect, depth layers, gradient backgrounds, micro interactions, card design improvements. All right, so let's jump back in chat. All right, AI first, meaning now that AI is my designer. I'm asking AI to be my designer. And I gave it the prompt from Lovable, and I'm asking it to consider the proposed ideas. And we're just going to plug it right back in. I died too. So I think both of these should have like a better free plan. 5 daily credits. All right, that's interesting because in Lovable, I don't see what they have for free options. And I don't see get free tokens, settings, my subscription. Yeah, it doesn't say what my free options are. All I know is they got 10 million tokens for $20. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. One is 100 credits per month. Yeah, I don't see what the deal is, but I do see that there's 5 daily credits. What's the difference between 5 daily credits, which is going to be 5 times 20 is 100, and this is 100 credits a month. So there's no difference. Yeah, 5 credits per day is the same as 100 credits per month. All right. So anyways, looks like we're stuck here. We can't go any further with Lovable. Although it sounds like we got more credits for tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen with Bolt tomorrow when we jump back into this. It's some of the features are working, some of the features are not working. And then we can export, and probably we can export likely code viewer, probably in the code viewer. And Figma is, I don't know how to use Figma. So our options are, if I have some tool that can help me to use Figma, that would be great. Like an AI integration to help me use Figma, that would be wonderful. Lovable, we're going to wait until tomorrow to see about how this works, because we're going to see if we can change the UI. And I think that is it for today. I don't know, Bolt. Any last thoughts? So I'm going to close the Figma window. back to marketing design. So like I'm using, I don't know, like, can you give me the steps to create a brand book and then help me create it? All right, we're going to keep the bold window open. We're going to keep the lovable window open. Based on, do I got audio? Can you read this for me? No, we don't have the audio. Okay, based on, I can't read this. It's too small. Based on the sources provided, here's the steps, insights to creating a brand book. Start with the strategy. So we're going to copy this. Point is actually starting to, okay, so before I paste that into Lovable, I think we need to consider creating a simplified brand book so that the AI designers and coding tools have an understanding of the look and feel of the product. Consider the following and then provide a simplified roadmap. All right, so I just pasted in the concept from Notebook, and now it's going to read that. So this is a description that's based on inside marketing design. Looks like you can't hear it.
Application, providing a clear target for both the AI tools and our collaborative work. The detailed overview you provided about creating brand books and design systems is fantastic. It covers the professional process thoroughly, from strategy and identity definition to documentation and maintenance. For our immediate needs within the project, core MVP development, especially for guiding AI tools, we likely don't need the full depth of a corporate brand system right now. We can create a simplified version focusing on the core elements that most directly impact the UI generation. Drawing from the steps you outlined, here's a proposed simplified roadmap to create basic brand guidelines for our project. 1. Define core brand attributes, simplified strategy, principles, steps 1 and 2 from your text. Let's quickly distill the essence of the Management Guidance app. Based on our project overview, what are 3 to 5 keywords that capture the desired feeling and user perception? E.g., clear, focused, professional, supportive, simple, actionable. These will guide our choices. 2. Select core visual elements. Simplified visual identity. Step 3 from your text. Color palette. We need to define a primary color. For main actions, branding accents. 1 or 2 secondary, neutral colors. For backgrounds, text, borders, likely shades of gray, white, off-white, and an accent color. For secondary actions, highlights, or status indicators. We should specify the exact hex codes. Typography. Let's choose 1 or 2 clean, highly readable web font families, e.g., from Google Fonts. We can use one versatile family for both headings and body text, just varying the weight, or select distinct heading and body fonts. We need to specify the font names and recommended weights, e.g., regular for body, semi-bold, bold for headings, iconography style. We previously decided against complex 3D icons. Let's confirm we'll stick to a clean, standard 2D icon style, e.g., outline style, like heroicons or feather icons, general style. Reaffirm key decisions like using rounded corners for containers, buttons, employing subtle shadows for depth, and maintaining clean layouts with ample spacing. 3. Define basic UI voice, tone. Simplified verbal identity. Step 3 from your text. How should the text within the UI feel? Let's define a few keywords, e.g., clear, concise, encouraging, direct, action-oriented. We can set simple guidelines, like using action verbs for button labels, e.g., create project, instead of new project submission. 4. Document simply. Simplified documentation. Step 4 from your text. We can create a concise markdown file, e.g., link to brand_guidelines_simple.md, that lists these decisions, core attributes, color palette, with hex codes, typography, with font names, weights, icon style, voice, tone keywords, and general style notes. This file can then be loaded as part of our context, providing clear guidance for future prompts and AI tools. This streamlined approach focuses mainly on the visual and basic.
All right, let's use the brainstorm module and then the choose module. And finally, create a markdown file. Act as the designer and have a meeting with the project manager and discuss also input from the business analyst who is connecting with the customer, getting customer insights, and with the benefit of insights from customers that use business-oriented brainstorming and project management tools, discuss the ideas with the project manager and the designers, and after going through the brainstorming module, then go through the choose module in order to make a final decision about a brand book and then create the markdown file. All right, let's see what they got to say.
Okay, let's simulate this process. Setting the scene, conceptual meeting. Me, acting as designer, facilitator. All right, project manager, thanks for joining. The goal for this session is to define a simplified set of brand guidelines for the management guidance app. This will help us maintain consistency, especially as we start generating UI concepts, potentially with AI tools like Bolt or Lovable. To make sure we're grounded, I've also got some key insights here from our hypothetical business analyst who's been looking at feedback from our target users. Injecting simulated BA insights. Me, continuing. The BA's findings highlight that our target new to mid-level managers often feel overwhelmed by existing PM tools. They react negatively to visual clutter, complexity, and overly corporate or cold interfaces. What resonates positively is clarity, simplicity, a feeling of being guided and supported, and a professional but approachable aesthetic. They want tools that feel focused and help reduce their cognitive load. So, clear, focused, supportive, simple, and professional seem like key attributes to aim for. With that background, let's use our own methodology. We'll start with the brainstorm module to generate ideas for the look, feel, and voice, and then use the choose module to narrow down our final selections. How does that sound? Assuming PM agrees, we proceed to brainstorm. Brainstorm, generating brand guideline ideas. Me, designer, facilitator. Let's go through the brainstorm prompts. 1. Imitate trends, learning from others in current styles. Looking at successful, clean SaaS productivity apps, like Notion, Linear, maybe calmer aspects of Figma itself. What visual elements contribute to their clarity and professionalism? Ideas, generous white space, strong typographic hierarchy, limited but well-chosen color palettes, often monochrome plus one primary accent, clean iconography, subtle use of depth, shadows, focus on readability. What are current trends that align with simple and professional? Ideas, continued focus on accessibility, good contrast, subtle micro-interactions for feedback, potentially very subtle gradients instead of flat colors for backgrounds, emphasis on design systems, consistency. 2. Ideate, unique ideas for this app. How can we visually express supportive and guiding without adding clutter? Ideas, maybe use a slightly softer primary color, like a calming blue or green, instead of a harsh corporate blue. Could rounded corners feel more approachable? Perhaps the UI voice uses encouraging language? Maybe progress indicators or subtle highlights guide the user through the modules? What unique visual metaphors relate to structured thinking or clarity? Ideas could involve clean lines, organized grid layouts, maybe subtle background patterns suggesting structure? Or perhaps focus entirely on minimalism to represent clarity? 3. Ignore what to avoid. Based on the BA insights, dislike of clutter, complexity, what should we actively avoid? Ideas, avoid overly bright or numerous colors, complex illustrations or icons, dense information displays, jarring animations, inconsistent layouts, overly casual or overly formal language, textures, neumorphism. Definitely avoid anything that feels busy. 4. Integrate, combining concepts smoothly. How can we blend professional with supportive? Ideas, use a professional sans serif font but ensure excellent readability and spacing. Use a structured layout but with softer corners and maybe a calming primary color. Keep interactions clean and predictable but add subtle, smooth animations. How do we ensure consistency across the VOS TBC modules? Ideas, use the same layout structure, header, content area, consistent button styles, consistent typography for questions, prompts, consistent color usage for interactive elements across all modules. 5. Interfere, reinforcing our unique position. How can the feel of the brand emphasize our difference from complex PM suites? Ideas, double down on simplicity as a feature. The visual design should feel focused and uncluttered. The limited, calming color palette reinforces this. How does the brand feel support the core methodology? Ideas, the design should feel structured and sequential, mirroring the guided modules. Clear hierarchy and visual cues should guide the user naturally through the steps within each module. The supportive feel aligns with the app, helping the manager think things through. Me, designer, facilitator. Okay, that gives us a lot of great ideas centered around clarity, support, professionalism, and simplicity. We have concepts like using a calming primary color, blue, green, strong typography, rounded corners, subtle depth, and a supportive tone, while avoiding clutter and complexity. Now, let's use the Choose module to make firm decisions on the core elements for our simplified brand guidelines. Choose, selecting the brand elements. Me, designer, facilitator. Let's follow the choose process. 1. What scenarios are being considered? List options. Based on the brainstorm, let's define 2 to 3 main aesthetic directions. Scenario A. Ultra minimalist and focused, primarily grayscale, monochrome, strong typography, sharp lines, minimal rounding, one clear accent color for actions. Very professional, maximum focus. Scenario B. Calm and supportive professional, uses a calming blue, teal as the primary color, softer rounded corners, clear typography, subtle shadows for depth. Aims to blend professionalism with approachability.
I like that one.
Scenario C. Modern and structured, leans more into subtle background gradients, slightly more pronounced depth effects, still clean. Potentially a slightly wider palette but still professional, e.g., blue primary, complementary accent. 2. What are the similarities and differences between scenarios? Compare. All aim for clarity and professionalism. All use strong typography and avoid clutter. A prioritizes focus above all, potentially feeling slightly colder. B balances focus with a supportive feel via color and softness. C aims for a more visually modern feel with gradients, depth, potentially risking slight complexity if not done well. 3. How do you decide on what aspects are more or less important? Define criteria. Let's rank our priorities based on project goals and BA insights. 1. Clarity and usability. Must be easy to read and navigate. 2. Simplicity and focus. Must avoid overwhelming the user. 3. Professionalism. Must feel credible and appropriate for managers. 4. Supportive feel. Should align with the app's guiding purpose. 5. Modern aesthetic. Should feel current but not overly trendy. 4. Evaluate the differences based on those important aspects. Apply criteria. A. Minimalist scores highest on simplicity, focus, high on professionalism and clarity. Lower on supportive feel and maybe modern aesthetic, can sometimes feel stark. B. Calm and supportive, scores
Yeah.
well across the board. High on clarity, simplicity,
B,
professionalism,
B,
and
B,
supportive
B,
feel.
B, B,
Good balance
B.
for modern aesthetic without being trendy. C. Modern and structured, high on modern aesthetic and professionalism. Good on clarity. Potential risk of slightly lower simplicity, focus if gradients, depth are overdone. Supportive feel might be neutral. 5. Make statements that support your decision. Justify choice. Considering the BA insights about users feeling overwhelmed and valuing support, Scenario B, calm and supportive professional, seems like the best fit. It directly addresses the need for a supportive feel while strongly maintaining clarity, simplicity, and professionalism. It avoids the potential coldness of ultra-minimalism and the potential complexity risks of Scenario C. It feels like the most balanced approach for this specific application and target audience. Therefore, we'll proceed with defining the specific elements based on Scenario B. Me, designer, facilitator, okay, project manager. Based on that structured decision process, we've chosen the calm and supportive professional direction. Now I'll draft the simplified brand guidelines based on that. Simplified Brand Guidelines Draft. Markdown. Simplified Brand Guidelines. Management Guidance App, MVP. Generated, the 5th of May 2025. Purpose. To provide basic guidelines for UI consistency during MVP development, ensuring AI, tools, and developers align with the desired look.
All right, so next steps, finalize specific codecs. What is this? Confirm the chosen font family. Use the Does 4 next steps mean that the document markdown file isn't complete? Complete the work so that we have a finished brand book doc that I can use with AI coding designers and tools, and also provide for you as a calibration as we work through the sprints and design process. All right, I think that's probably enough work for today. We had 3 videos. We still don't have the core brand attributes, visual identity. Got the colors. We got the typograph. We got the iconography. We got the style, layout, AUI, voice, and tone. Well, how come we're missing number 4? Okay, that's fine. It's good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump back into sprint calibration, tech stack, and brand calibration. I'm going to throw this one in here. Markdown file for tool calibration. And number 7 is for Markdown. For brand book. And how do we do this from here? So now we go back into Arrowhead. It's number 8. Create a Google Doc. And there. And pop that up here. What is it, number 8? All right, this is good news. So copy this link, jump back into here, open up this one, paste, get the preview. Oh, something happened. Oh, I did the wrong one. Anyways, it's fine. All right, so now we got our brand guidelines. Got our tech stack, we got our brand guidelines. Now we got our sprint, collaboration, sprint, and now we're back to sprint number 1, where we would like to start using our AI code. We can see here with the foundation, infrastructure, and authentication, core navigation, and page UI. Yeah, so this is the issue, right? So before we jump into our visual module, objective module, our basic scoreboard, all that kind of stuff, we need to decide on the foundational infrastructure and authentication, as well as the core navigation and page structure. We're talking about UI. So in order to develop the UI with a stronger foundation, I decided to start with using Lovable and Bolt, start with a more UI-friendly environment. And then what happened was I realized that I needed to create a brand book. So we went to the website Inside Product Design, and we took all of her videos, did them as sources within our NotebookLM, and then we asked for what it means to create a brand book. Then we copied those brand book concepts, and we threw it into, and we asked Gemini to simulate a meeting between the designer and the business analyst who had significant experience with customers, and the project manager. And at the end, we created this brand book. So now that we have the brand book, put the brand book back into our documents in case we lose our Gemini AI developers. We can always come back to our documentation and to calibrate our next AI. Also, we're ready to give the prompt to Cursor, Windsurf, and Replete in order to create the software. So after we've created something a little more in depth with Lovable or with Bolt, so that we have our main UI elements completed, then we're gonna see if we can copy and paste. Yeah, so okay, what we may have to do, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with this. Potentially we are going to upload this to GitHub and then bring it back into Cursor. I'm not really sure. So anyways, that is everything for today. Most importantly, we have everything saved in our documentation on Notion. We have our brand book, so we can easily recreate anything we've created so far with our documentation that we have saved. So even if let's say that I lost Lovable, I lost Gemini, I lost all of my AI coding tools, I don't have anything, I got to start from scratch, I can easily sign up. Like, let's say that we decide we're going to use Claude suddenly. All right, so we could upload all these documents to Claude and we would be ready to go for sprint number 1, and we would be able to start creating our foundational infrastructure and authentication. So yeah, documentation is very interesting discussion. And rather than like the opinion I had before was like, I'm just gonna make Cursor and make Windsurf and make these guys, they need to do everything for me and they need to figure it out. And now I've completely changed it to where I'm going to solve all the problems to the best of my ability. And then from there, we're going to, what's that? From there, we're going to allow Cursor and Windsurf and Replete to do what they do, but with as much information and guideline as possible. And then we're going to see if they can succeed on that foundation. So thank you for joining me today. It's been a long morning and 3 videos, and yeah, exciting. So maybe we might do more tomorrow or the next day. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Good to see you, and we'll see you later.